First, though, a guy who, if you've been a regular listener to this radio program, you will remember from the first volume of what has turned into an interesting series of books. His name is James R. Brayshaw, though we call him Jim, a Saskatoon firefighter by day, author by the rest of the time, and he has spent years studying the whole issue of the role of the devil, or Satan, in Christian rituals, in worship, in the Bible. And the new book is called Imagine There's No Satan. Jim Brayshaw joins me in studio. Good to have you back.
Good to be here. Thanks, John.
Well, and it was good to see you at my book launch the other night. Thanks. I need all the support I can get on these things. It's nice to see veteran authors like you.
Congratulations on your bestseller status. It's a nice work you've done.
Oh, well, thank you. Now, this Imagine There's No Satan. How long ago was it that you and I first met? It was a couple of years.
It was almost 2 years and almost 2.5 years now.
Okay, so the first book was
Satan, Christianity's Other God, exploring the historical roots of Satan. And I did that in 500 pages and left a whole bunch of things unanswered for the next segment of history, so to speak. Like go ahead.
So what is the significance to Christians of Satan? I mean, we tend to understand Satan as sort of the mirror image, the fallen angel. There's God, there's Lucifer. I mean, there's the good, the bad, the yin, the yang.
What a broad question that can be. The answers are various when you talk to different believers in different faiths, even, and we'll stick with Christendom. It seems to be some have a really a minor idea of who and what Satan is, thinking he doesn't play a very big role at all. He's just kind of a little imp that can try to skirt God's rules. And others will say Satan is someone you need to fight daily, battle down in prayer and sometimes ritual, as you mentioned, so that he doesn't get into your life, possess your soul, or cause havoc in your finances, your health, all kinds of reasons.
So the bottom line, though, in the research you've done, and this is now volume 2 of Satan, Christianity's Other God, that was your first one, and you have a couple other books coming still.
Yeah, that's right. We'll continue with the Imagine There's No Satan title, and we're going to go Imagine There's No Satan in the Gospels, where I explain every passage that refers to Satan, devils, demons, unclean spirits, and put them back in their historical and literary context from when they were written, to tell the reader what the writer was thinking, what was going on in his worldview at the time when he wrote those words.
So, in your view, then, in these books, there is no Satan?
In my view, there's no Satan. Satan is a construct of human culture and comes out of really misunderstanding evil that has happened in the world and looking for a source to blame that on. Evil. I don't deny there's evil, and I don't deny there's a God, but I come to the conclusion in both these books that if there is another cosmic entity that can do all the things God does, then there's a second God or godlike being, and that sovereign creator who supposedly is the author of the scriptures, the inspired scriptures, he says he's the only one. And so I've concluded through these that, hey, maybe there's a different way to look at this Satan character than I've looked at my whole life.
Okay, what was for you the point that sent you down this road? When you've spent thousands of hours researching, writing, working on this.
Yeah, and it was a hobby gone sideways, let's put it, because
yeah, like a lot of hobbies do. It's okay right. Until it takes a lot of time.
You're right, it is. And really it started with questions I received from friends and acquaintances, and a debate I would have with the odd atheist about God and Satan and the existence of them. And so exploring for myself if I can prove to them Satan exists and show them, well, no, he does exist. So these questions came, I tried to answer them, and as I peeled back the layers of the onion, so to speak, finding out my answers weren't really answers. They were just secondhand beliefs or conjecture or misreading of a text or addition of typical common day doctrine to ancient Hebrew language. And it really started to unravel piece by piece. And so I said, I got to write this down.
Jim Brayshaw in studio. The book is Imagine There's No Satan. I want to meet Jim. He's right here. It's 1-877-332-8255. Put your questions to him. Now, he's also not afraid of a debate. You've been pushed around a bit on this stuff, and you generally keep coming back for more.
Yeah, I have been pushed around, and it's from people who catch on to what I'm trying to teach, and there's a threat that I'm taking something away from their belief system. Oftentimes, leaders in the community, minister leaders, there's good and bad on both sides of that, I gotta say. But they push, and then I offered a dialogue, and you mentioned a debate. I'm not afraid. I've got a couple offers out. I would love to have a healthy, mature discussion where we can use some intellectual thinking to try to understand.
Because it's weird, because the classic debate, of course, is we sit the atheist down with the Christian and we debate God. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of guys around debating the devil.
No, and there's a general kind of an emotional connection we have to our beliefs, which brings us to a fear point. And when you start to really dismantle someone's belief, they start to get afraid, John, I found. And I was the same. I'm no different. When this belief started getting dismantled, I thought my whole world's going to crumble. I've misbelieved something about Satan that I've been taught my whole life. And in getting past that emotional connection to it, I was able to look at it from a rational, logical perspective and really start digging in.
1-877-332-8255. Want to meet Jim Brayshaw? Want to agree? Want to disagree? Want to question him? Lines are yours. He's only here till the bottom of the hour, so get your calls in now. So before we double back onto some of the evidence you present in your book, what does this do for the person of faith? Because you can argue about, is there a God or no God? But when you assert there is no Satan, what does this push Christians to do or toward?
It pushes us to take responsibility for our own actions. And in the Bible and Christianity, we'll call it sin. We're often looking for someone to blame our sin on, and that's what Satan's been for much of Christendom. And so it pushes Christians, believers, to say, hey, there's only evil that's generated by my own wickedness that's built within me and my choices that I make, or perhaps another person imposing wickedness on me. And the follow-through of that is when people come to realize there is no other cosmic entity. I've gotten emails from all over the world, people who've been through this now, and one gentleman in Phoenix, for instance, says, hey, my sons now, when I hear them talking to their friends, they say they don't have any nightmares anymore because now they don't believe there's a satanic entity that's there to get them on some level.
So when you argue this, is it a push toward, I could see Christians saying, well, this is a push toward secularism.
Yes.
Because as much as they invest a faith in God, there is a form of, I don't say it a faith, but it's a type of reliance on Satan.
Yeah, and the impetus to believe in God is often that I have this other entity that will try to take me. In fact, there was a recent movie, it was My Soul to Take, I think, if you remember that song, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it's the concern that there's this entity going to take you away from the kingdom of God, and so you have to believe God is stronger and more powerful, and then you're protected from this other entity. So,
but does this end up, what you're saying then, for some Christians, does this end up making them feel you are diminishing the involvement of their God?
Yes.
Like if there's no Satan, then, again, I'm oversimplifying this and I apologize if I'm offending people, but, it's sort of like cheering for the good guys and the bad guys. You don't have to cheer quite as hard for the good guys if there's no bad guy.
That's true. A lot of people think that I'm diminishing their God and diminishing His work, and actually saying the Scriptures are wrong. Which, when it looks like the work I'm doing is invalidating the Scriptures, then people get offended. But I'm not. In fact, if they read through my work, they'll see I'm supporting the Scriptures. I'm just bringing us back to understanding the bits about Satan the way the writer intended it to be, not the way we understand it in our 20th century.
So give me an example, if you would. Because I don't read Aramaic, I don't read Greek, I don't read Latin, but the translated versions of the Bible we typically see seem to be pretty clear on Lucifer, the fallen angel.
Sure. And Lucifer, the word is a Latin word, and it means light bringer. And when it was written by Jerome, that word, in 346 CE, he was just translating a Hebrew word so that it could be read by the commoner in the Vulgate. And the Hebrew word was Hillel, which just meant morning star. And the Hebrew word was referring to a king who thought he was a god. And the whole context of that passage, Lucifer, how thou art fallen from heaven, is clearly talking about the king. It was the king of Babylon, supposedly.
So this was almost more like a parable than it was a parable about a fallen human.
Exactly. He got too big for his britches, and the prophet said to him, you know what, you're going to lose all this now. And it turns out we get it as Lucifer, which, by the way, only appears in that particular place in Isaiah 14:12, that word.
Jim Brayshaw's in studio. A couple of people want to ask him. One person wants to commend him. Another wants to challenge some of the logic, but she says this is making more sense to her. Your call's next at 1-877-332-8255. Jim Brayshaw's in. The book is Imagine There's No Satan. Available at bookstores.
Yes, available at McNally Robinson and online at Amazon. And tonight I'll be at McNally Robinson doing a book signing.
You will?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Great place to do a book signing.
Yes.
I'm John Gormley. This is News Talk Radio. I'm John Gormley. Welcome back. Jim Brayshaw's here. Jim is a Saskatoon firefighter who, as he says, is a hobby that went sideways some years ago. Began studying and reading, and his very first book was Satan, Christianity's Other God. And this then turned into a whole series of books. In the beginning, there was no Satan, he writes in installment number 2, which is called Imagine There's No Satan.